Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast is number 613. The topic is trainer education and the title is areas of development. So we're going to talk about 4 areas of development that I think are absolutely important if you want to be the best personal trainer that you can be. If you are not a personal trainer, these are actually still 4 areas that you absolutely need to develop your knowledge on to ensure that you can reach the best of your physical potential, physical health potential, and then also just best in life. So physical health factors into emotional health, mental health, financial health, relational health, everywhere. So if you're not healthy in body, you're not going to be healthy in spirit, you're not going to have your best energy to put to things. Nothing is just going to go best in your life. You're always going to be kind of worn out, worn down, and sluggish and never feeling your best. So, to everyone who would listen to this, this is absolutely important. All 4 areas that we're going to talk about today should be developed. You'll probably find that you're going to develop one of them pretty naturally. It'll just be something of interest that you're going to pay attention to on your own, but you're probably also avoiding or not even thinking about another area. So I know for myself, like when I got into personal training and stuff, I really loved training. I loved learning about exercises, the nuances of exercises, what the intentions were for each exercise, what muscles were doing, blah, 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 blah. I loved that stuff. Then, as I started kind of realizing that food played a role in how well my training would go, I started learning more about nutrition. So I loved training, and then in order for me to get the best out of my training, I knew I needed to know nutrition. Then I started realizing that once I knew what food was and what it did in my body, I didn't adhere to that very well due to different emotional issues. So like I first started lifting weights because I kind of hated my body and I didn't like the way I looked. And I've talked to a bunch of people over time who had trouble with self-worth. They didn't feel like they were even worth the effort, so they would never prioritize themselves first. So they would always take care of everybody else first, and it never led to their best life. So there's self-worth issues. Also just stress relief. If somebody doesn't have an emotional management, if they don't have emotional health, they get stressed. And when we get stressed, we tend not to do the things that are best for us. We tend to do the things that are easiest for us. And that involves skipping workouts. That involves eating junk food or food that we don't have to prepare. We don't have to put much thought or time or effort into. So I started realizing that, okay, if I want to get the best out of my training, I had to eat my best. If I want to eat my best, I have to better control my mindset and my behaviors towards nutrition. And then I had to start controlling my lifestyle management. When was I going to get my meals in? When was I going to get my training in? I started to kind of figure out I had to organize my life best if I want all these things to work well. So that was the order for me. I'm assuming a lot of people are going to find that order as well. But there are people I've talked to who do great in nutrition, and their fail point is they don't like to exercise. They hate exercise. And it's like, oh, but you need to. They hate it. So let's talk about these 4 areas: training, nutrition, emotional management, and lifestyle management. Now, I'm going to give a podcast associated with these. There are obviously a ton of resources in all of these areas. In fact, there are endless resources to the point where it would be overwhelming to name them. But I wanted to give the podcasts that we've done in the past because the podcasts are intended to be condensed versions of what I've learned. So if I read a book, I'm going to try to give you the book in 20 minutes rather than you taking 2 hours or 2 days or 2 weeks, okay? So that's why I want to give the podcast, is because you're going to learn the information faster through the podcast. And then if you like the idea of anything being presented, you can look up books or other resources like videos more related to that specific area, okay? So we're going to go through the podcast. I'm going to end up naming, let's see here, about 14 podcasts. Each podcast is about 20 minutes long. So that means you can get 3 podcasts per hour. So we're talking about 5 hours worth of work. So if you are a personal trainer and you won't put in five hours worth of education, That's insane. Okay, so clearly we don't have to explain why that's a red flag if you're a trainer and you don't want to put 5 hours of education in. And then also, I know for a fact you're already doing more than that. So you're looking at videos on Instagram, you're watching videos on YouTube, maybe you're even reading books and reading magazines. I don't even know if they make magazines anymore, but that's what I did when I started learning. But you're already learning. You're already putting in time. So you're talking about 5 hours isn't going to be that, like, you can get that done in a day, but you can definitely get that done in a week, if not 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden you have a better understanding of the total kind of development of you as a personal trainer. If you're not a personal trainer and you won't put 5 hours into what's important for your health, you're absolutely freaking insane. And that's obviously just ridiculous. So I am asking, what sounds like a lot is to listen to 14 podcasts. Well, I guess plus this one, so that's 15, okay? So fair point there. Really, that's not a lot. You're going to end up listening to 5 hours worth of information in the next 2 weeks of something. Why not listen to 5 hours worth of information that's actually going to make a difference in your life? Okay? So let's get over the fact that I'm about to name 14 podcasts and quit whining and complaining. So these podcasts will be listed in the description of the podcast that you're listening to now. You can always email me at brutalironjim@gmail.com and I'll send you the full list. I promise that these will be worth it. I'm 36 years old, and this is stuff that, as I've found out and gotten to where I am in life, that every single one of these things has been absolutely important and needed. And it's allowed me to live my best life. I have not seen a single one yet of the areas that we're going to talk about that isn't important or not needed. So I promise this is worth it if you just want to be a general, healthy, happy human being, and then also to be the best trainer you can be. So I've been a personal trainer for 18 years. This is all I do to pay for my cost of living, and I do it full time, and this is happy. I'm blessed, and a wonderful career. I love what I do. And it was only that I got to do this as a full-time career, that I got to live my passion every day, was because I invested the time into learning this type of stuff. Okay, enough of me preaching at you, but I wanted to get that out because I do understand it's going to sound like a lot of work. 5 hours is not a lot of work. You'll be fine. Okay, you'll survive. So the first area you want to make sure you develop knowledge in is obviously training as a personal trainer. If you don't know how to train, you're going to be spending a lot of people's time wasting it. So you're going to end up doing, say somebody comes in, they want to do fat loss, and you just do a shit ton of cardio. You're a horrible trainer. Yep. So I might have just offended a few people already. But if you focus on cardio for fat loss, you're a horrible trainer. Now, I don't mean to do this in terms of like making you aggravated, but I just want you to know that focusing on cardio for fat loss, that is insanely under-knowledged. That is such a waste of time for that client. And it's absolutely not the right way to approach it. Will they maybe lose weight on a scale? Sure. You know, it comes typically, like that's how it works, is like if I do more and I eat less, the scale goes down. But that doesn't necessarily mean I look better because I might lose just as much muscle as fat. I might also just feel like shit because I don't have enough energy throughout the day. I'm feeling miserable. I hate cardio, so I'm never going to learn to exercise as a normal way of life and maybe a fun even way of life. Nothing you're going to do is sustainable and permanent when you're doing cardio only. It's absolutely a waste of time. So please recognize that right away. That if your first answer as a trainer, or your first answer as someone listening to this who just does their own training and stuff, if you think fat loss and you immediately think cardio, oh my God, you got a lot to learn, okay? So, the first thing you want to develop is strength. Yes, even if somebody wants fat loss, even if they want bigger muscles, regardless of whatever someone's goal is, strength is always the first place you should focus on, the first thing you should develop. The reason why is how strong someone is determines all the systems of their body, of what they can function and handle. So if somebody does want to do more cardio, if they have a horrible lung development, if they have horrible strength, moving themselves around is going to wear them the hell out. So you need to get them stronger, so then moving themselves around feels easier, and then they can actually do cardio and get benefit from it. So there is tons of everything, so I can't go too overwhelming because I'm already at 9 minutes and I still have a lot to go through. But strength is absolutely the most important thing, regardless of all goals. If you don't believe me, go listen to podcast 175, titled The Importance of Strength. And again, if you need help getting the links to these emails, to these podcasts, email us at brutalironjim@gmail.com. I'll send you the direct links, okay? So don't worry about trying to find them. Don't freak out. Just send us an email, brutalironjim@gmail.com. I'll send you the direct link for every single podcast I mentioned in this podcast. Okay? So first thing for all goals, regardless of whatever you're focusing on, whether you're listening for your own training or listening as a trainer, is podcast 175, and you focus on strength. Okay? Then you need to understand the importance of muscle damage. So muscle damage is incredibly important when you come to fat loss. And the reason why is because it helps you burn more calories and it helps you build up your metabolism over time. So you can actually burn more fat while eating more calories. Yes. So you can eat more food and lose more fat if you understand how to use muscle damage for fat loss. Okay? So that is podcast 181, is using muscle damage for fat loss. So that's definitely going to be something you're going to look up, because I know that sounds like a shortcut to everything you'd always want. How do I lose more fat and eat more food? Sounds crazy, right? But it is possible. So the other things we want to look at is podcast 441. It's titled Setting Rep Ranges for Clients. So if you're a trainer and you're trying to decide, okay, if my client wants strength, if my client wants muscle damage for, a toned, shaped look, or they want muscle damage for building muscle, or if they want explosive effort because they're an athlete, if they want fat loss, how do I reach all these goals? Like, what in the world do I have them do? How many reps? How many sets? All that stuff. Podcast 441, titled Setting Rep Ranges for Clients, discusses how to do that. And again, even if you're not a trainer, that's obviously something good to listen to, because it can let you know what you should set up for yourself. And that's also based off podcast 214, Understanding Rep Ranges and Expected Results. So those kind of build off each other. But the idea of it is, if I'm going to do exercises in my programming or in my workouts, and I want a specific result from that exercise, I have to make sure I'm using the right time under tension, the right weight load, the right challenge and difficulty to get the result that I want. So I see this all the time, that people do this inappropriately. They'll lift something way too heavy with horrible freaking form, thinking they're trying to build muscle. Or they do stuff half-assed, like so damn slow, so damn light, and they're over-focused on, well, I have to make sure the muscle contracts exactly perfect every single time. No, if your current body can do it, okay, if you do it and it looks like a freaking exercise tutorial guide and everything's perfect and you never strain or struggle, why the hell would your body ever change? If what you're asking it to do, it can already do, why the hell would it be different? Okay, so you need to understand this stuff. Now, the third part is how to mix cardio into weight training. Like we said, if you do straight cardio for fat loss, horrible, horrible, horrible idea. It's an absolute waste of time. You can get cardio effects, interval type cardio effects, interval heart rate effects through weight training. So that way you get the muscle benefit, you get the strength benefit, you get range of motion, mobility, balance. You get all the benefits of weight training plus the benefit of interval heart rate, okay, for fat loss and cardiovascular health. That's podcast 497, titled Creating Cardio Within Weight Training. So again, the reason why I'm naming these podcasts is, if you don't trust me that strength development is important, go listen to that podcast. If you don't know how to develop strength, go listen to that podcast. If you don't understand the importance of why you need muscle damage, even if you just want to lose fat, you don't care that you have bigger muscles. You don't even care what your muscles look like. You just want to get fat off of them. Well, guess what? You need muscle damage to do that. So you would go listen to that podcast. If you know that cardio is important for general caloric burn, for general heart health, cardiovascular health, but you don't want to waste time on a treadmill because it's freaking boring and an absolute waste of time, why not learn how to mix cardio into your weight training? Go listen to that podcast. So that's why I'm saying these podcasts, is this information is available to you. If you don't know how to do any of this, or if you don't know any of the importance of this, please go listen to it. All of these things are going to allow you to learn how to train to exactly what you want results-wise. You can get every single rep of every single workout to go exactly the way you want, to get the most efficient results and the most safest results. Okay? So, the last thing for training we want to look at is the importance of progressions. You have to progress. If you go into the gym and you do the same things all the time, you're going to get the same thing. Your current body right now. If you want a new body, if you want new abilities, If you want to go to a new place, you have to do new stuff. So you have to force the body to progress. And that's podcast number 70. We talk about the importance of progressions and how to actually perform them. Okay? So I've already yip-yapped a lot about training, but those are podcasts you want to check out. And underneath training, the umbrella of training, you want to make sure you understand strength development, understand the importance of muscular damage, why you have to have muscle damage, regardless of your goals, and how to mix cardio into weight training. Then you can apply all three of those by forcing progressions on them. So those are the 4 areas of training that I think you need to know is strength development, muscle damage, mixing cardio into weight training, and the importance of progressions. If you don't know any of those 4 areas very well, go learn more about them. Okay? Cool. Now, nutrition. I have 3 general areas we want to look at under nutrition. Number 1 is what each nutrient does in the body. So when we eat food, it contains the 4 macronutrients. Not all 4 in all food, but the 4 macronutrients that there are is water, fats, carbs, and protein. You need to know what fat does in your body and why we eat it. You need to know what carbs does in your body and why we eat it. You need to know what protein does in your body and why we need to eat it. So you need to know what the food does. If you know what the food does, you can then know how to manipulate the food to get the effect and result that you want. Okay? So you need to know the basics of food. Just the basics, bare bone basics, what each thing does. And that's discussed in podcast 41 titled Diet Right, What Matters Most. We talk to you about the most important components of a diet and what each component is, why it's important. And within the category of macronutrients, we discuss why the macronutrients are important for what their roles are. Okay? Next thing you need to know is when do you eat? Why do people like me tell you to never skip breakfast? Then why do you have people who are complete freaking morons tell you to skip breakfast? Okay? Now, if you have ever told somebody to skip breakfast as a good way to control fat loss, you do not know what you're talking about. Or you heard it from somebody who didn't know what they were talking about and you didn't question that knowledge and you just did it. Or you're in a learning opportunity in life. Welcome to it. So we all are there from one part to another. So I have tried fasted cardio before. I've tried fasted workouts before because at various times in my trainer development, that seemed to be the popular thing. I then found out that was absolutely stupid. And I have moved on. And so have the smarter people that have continued to move on with me in regards to the general fitness arena. So people who understand the importance of timing and when we need to eat will always have the best long-term results. Anybody that does anything starvation-based or run your body when it's not fueled, it's all short-term bullshit that actually results in negative long-term effects. So I'm actually working with a client now, personal trainer. They actually have a certification in nutrition. And something they did 8 years ago, they chased down fat loss by eating nothing and taking fat burner pills. They absolutely wrecked their metabolism. They gained 80 pounds after they had lost like 30-some pounds, and they actually were worse off. They then had a much harder time even maintaining regular body weight, let alone trying to take weight off. So they would have looked like a freaking genius the first 30 pounds they took off. Everybody would have been asking, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Well, anytime you want to see if a diet is effective, see where the person is 6 months after the diet, a year after the diet. Are they healthy at the end? Don't ask if it's working right now. Of course it's working right now because they're probably cleaning up shitty habits. So even if the diet is right or not, they're still going to get progress because they're at least doing better than nothing. But if you want to find out if the diet's actually effective, see where they are at 6 months, see where they are in a year. So get the long-term stories, not the short-term stories. Okay? So to learn more about nutrient timing and why it's ridiculously important, okay, podcast 249 talks about meal timing. And podcast 329 talks about meal frequency effects on diets. So not only is it important to eat when we're busy, it's also important to eat often. Our body is a machine. It needs repaired and fueled throughout the day. Intermittent fasting, all that kind of bullshit that doesn't work long term. It's horrible for body composition. It's horrible for building metabolism in the long run. All that stuff is short term, short change efforts. Short goals, short results, all of it short. Okay, not long-term success. Now, once you know what each nutrient does in the body, once you know the importance of meal timing and the effects of timing, you then want to know the specifics of calorie control. So how much of a deficit is enough for fat loss? How much is too much that actually shuts fat loss down and causes intense cravings? And it causes a diet structure that you cannot maintain without binging. Okay? How much, if you're trying to gain muscle mass, how much surplus is enough? How much is too much where you're just gaining fat and you're going to have to take that off later? In podcast 426, we discuss why eating less isn't good for fat loss. We talk about what is the appropriate amount of deficit and surplus. Okay, so go check that out. The next two sections we have is emotional management and lifestyle management. So under emotional management, you need to know self-worth. You need to improve that in yourself, or you need to learn how to improve that in a client. You have to make sure that the person thinks they're worth the effort. They will have off and on moments. They'll maybe have flashes where they want to take care of themselves. Then all of a sudden they'll have weeks on end that they're not doing any of the shit that you're telling them, and you don't have a freaking clue why. Okay? So you need to understand this in your own self and or in your clients. So 2 podcasts to check out. Number 15 is just developing self-confidence. How do you develop self-confidence, either in yourself or in another person? That way you can believe that you're worth the effort to become healthy and happy. Then we have podcast 113 that talks about nutrition-based self-punishment cycles and how you can get out of them. So if somebody has a diet that's too restrictive in calories, they're going to cause binging and starvation cycles. How do you get them the hell out of that? So that's podcast 113. Then we talk about stress relief. If somebody's stressed out, they're not going to do training right. They're not going to do eating right. They're not going to sleep right. Nothing is going to really go well. So I was working with a client one time that lost her children due to some crazy legal stuff with an ex-husband. And it was causing her to sleep about 2 to 4 hours a night. And the sleep was probably fueled by crying. I have no clue. But it would have been probably the worst emotions of her entire life. And due to that stress, she was training like crazy to try to help manage the mental aspects. And she was eating, but she was under-eating. And nothing was progressing. She was training her ass off, but she was getting nothing for it. Because the body was ridiculously underfueled and overstressed. Too much cortisol. It was just worn the hell out. It couldn't make the positive growth adaptations to the training that she was wanting. It can't produce more strength. It can't produce more muscle. It can't produce more fitness if it doesn't have more. If it doesn't even have enough for what it needs every day. You got to fuel progress, not starve it. Okay? So, then that's podcast 548, by the way. You can learn more about stress management. That one specifically talks about perception versus reality, how to lower stress by just like getting real with yourself. Is what I'm stressing about really happening? Or am I just perceiving it to happen? Or that it might happen, or maybe it'll happen, or what if it happens? Leave out the might, maybes, and what ifs. Okay, none of that shit matters. Can't do anything about that right now. Okay, so go listen to podcast 548 to talk about, and it'll talk about how to handle those what ifs, maybes, and whatevers, and how you can maybe be proactive against stuff, but then also learning what can you control and what can't you control. You can also just search the term stress on Podbean. So Podbean still holds all 600 some of the podcasts. So you can go on the Podbean app or website and search the term stress on our individual page, and you'll be able to find a lot of their podcasts about stress. We have like podcasts about stress over worry versus hurry versus people pleasing, all that stuff. So whatever your specific stress issue is, there is a podcast for it. If you're not sure, if you can't find it, email us at brutalironjim@gmail.com. Tell us what you're stressing about. I'll send you the link. Okay? Last thing we have is lifestyle management. You have to learn how to manage your time and your energy, so that way you can get the most important things done first in the day and still actually have energy to the end of the day to get stuff done. That's absolutely what you got to know, time and energy management. You also have to learn what's important, what's stuff that's worth doing, what's the stuff that just fills your life full of shit but it actually isn't worth doing. Okay, it doesn't move you forward towards your life. It just kind of muddies the waters and keeps you busy, but it doesn't move you forward. So in podcast 251, titled Drop the Right Ball, we talk about how to balance your priorities. So what are the priorities that you can kind of like drop in frequency? What are the ones you got to keep? And then in podcast 596, we talk about calming the whirlwind. So the craziness of everyday life. How do we keep that calm? How do we control that? And that talks about multiple steps you can take to control your everyday regular life. Okay? So if you want to be the best personal trainer you can possibly be, if you are not a personal trainer, but you want to have the best overall possible physical health in your life, you need to know more about training, nutrition, emotional management, and lifestyle management. You absolutely need all four places, okay? All four areas. Training, nutrition, emotional management, and lifestyle management. If you need help in any of those four whatsoever, reach out to us or email us brutalirongym@gmail.com. Listen to the podcast that I shared with you. If you don't remember which ones or you can't find trouble finding them, email us brutalirongym@gmail.com and I will send you the direct links. But you must learn these four areas. You will never train to your best and get the best results from your training if you don't eat right. You'll never have the best nutrition, best training, and have those combined to actually be able to be sustainable, to where you do them day in, day out, and consistently, unless you have emotional management and lifestyle management. You got to have all four components, okay? So to be the best trainer you can possibly be, you got to know all four. To be the best individual that you can possibly be, you got to know all four. Okay, reach out to us if you need any help on this. This stuff is extremely important. Please don't blow past it. Like I said, it's 5 hours worth of podcast. You're going to spend more than 5 hours doing a bunch of stupid, useless stuff in the next 2 weeks. Why not spend 5 hours doing stuff that's going to help your life? Okay? If you need anything, please email us. If you think this podcast will be helpful to somebody, please share it on social media. The more you share the podcast, the more people get eyes on it, the more we can share good, healthy, happy information with the world. Okay? Also, if you like this type of information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. If you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd always love to hear from you. So the podcast is supposed to be for you guys and girls, the listeners. So if there's anything you want to learn about, just let us know. Or email us brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful. And thank you for listening. And thank you for watching.